Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mail Bag, the Mailbag Show here at AMC Movie News. My name is John Campia. I am the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, and I am so glad that you decided to make this a part of your day today. I really love doing AMC Mail Bag. It is the more laid-back, relaxed show that we do here on AMC Movie Talk. We talk a little bit about some behind-the-scenes stuff as well, and all we do is take your mailbag questions. Now, I'm going to let you know up front, today's episode of AMC Mailbag is going to be a little bit short. It's going to be a little bit abbreviated. We're still going to fly through 6 questions, but it's going to be a little bit shorter than normal. And the reason is we got a lot to do today. Today is going to be the first episode. I am so excited about this, of our new limited series that we're doing here. Just here from the Studio B, AMC Jedi Council Star Wars Talk for Star Wars fans. We are doing a Star Wars show, and it's going to be done right here from this studio that you see me sitting right now. It's going to be very casual, bunches of Star Wars geeks and Star Wars nerds talking Star Wars, talking about the upcoming movies and what we're, the news that has come out about it and some of our speculation. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're a Star Wars fan, and dear heavens, I hope all of you are. If you are a Star Wars fan, then it is something you're going to want to check out. It's myself, and you know my history with Star Wars. Christian Harloff, one of the newest team members here at AMC Movie News, and he also does a podcast called Far, Far Away, a Star Wars podcast. We're also being joined by an old friend of mine, Mr. Paul Enns, who is used to be one of the head honchos over at theforce.net, one of the most popular fan sites on the planet, until he was hired by Lucasfilm to go and run all their online stuff, where he was the director of Lucas Online for a lot of years. And we're also being joined by director of the movie Fanboys, Kyle Newman, who is a lifelong diehard Star Wars fanatic. And we're going to talk Star Wars today, and I'm really excited about this thing. And I'm going to let you know too, guys, if you're watching this early on Sunday and you got some questions or some topics you want us to bring up on the new AMC Jedi Council, tweet a question using the hashtag AMC Jedi Council. So just write a question and put in that hashtag AMC Jedi Council, and we're going to pick out a whole bunch of them and address them on the show later. So please do that. Star Wars fans, unite. Come and join us for that, and that's why it's going to be a busy day. So today's episode is going to be just a little bit abbreviated. My apologies in advance, and we'll get back into a normal schedule a bit later. So with all that being said, I'm still going to get through 6 mailbag questions today like we normally do, and we're going to start with this one. The first question today comes to us from Alex B. And Alex B. writes, "Hey guys, I think this is a great show and I love hearing all of your opinions on everything movie related." Well, thank you so much, Alex. A while back, there was this animated movie called Coraline, which, by the way, was super creepy. However, I really like the concept of a darker, more creepy animation. My question is, do you think we will see any other creepy animated films, or will they stay kid-friendly? Well, Alex, thanks a lot for the question. And yes, Coraline was definitely like a creepy kind of animated film. I know a lot of people really love that movie. But it's not unique in the sense of being creepy. I mean, there have been other creepy animated films. Monster House. That was a legit pretty scary film, even though it was a kid's animated film, right? Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, right? That was pretty creepy. Staying with Tim Burton animated stuff, stop motion, and macabre, was The Corpse Bride. Remember The Corpse Bride? That was pretty creepy. Then, of course, you had a Paranorman. That was pretty macabre as well, and pretty creepy and a little disturbing as well. Look, and even if you go back to some of the classic stuff like Snow White, there's some pretty dark stuff in some of those old classic fairy tales. And Snow White is no exception. Even the original. I mean, there's some pretty dark material in that as well. So animated films that have gone on the scarier and darker side is not really brand new. And they have had some success. So I think as long as there's some success there to be had, I think we're going to continue to see those. Like, there's another stop motion animated film coming out called Box Trolls. And while in one sense, some of the marketing we've seen for Box Trolls so far has looked kind of cute, I get the feeling there's going to be a darker side to that movie as well. So, I mean, it all comes down to money, right? And I think that there is enough of a track record so far on these quote unquote darker, more creepy animated films, that they've had enough success in the past that with the right movie, I believe studios are willing to take risks on it going forward. So I do think we'll see more in the future. And hopefully they're as good as some of the ones that we've had so far. All right, let's move on to question number 2. And the second question today comes to us from Maci. And Maci writes, "Hello, AMC crew. I'm a big fan and totally addicted to your channel." Thank you so much, Maci. Appreciate that. My question is about the future of quote-unquote giant robot and quote-unquote giant monster movies. I loved Pacific Rim. In my opinion, it was even better than the Avengers. I know most people loved it as well, and I have no doubt that Godzilla will be one of the best movies of 2014. Well, you might want to temper your expectations on Godzilla a little bit. But anyway, do you think that we will see more of these movies in the future? And would you like to see more giant robots and or giant monsters on the screen? Thank you. Love you all. Well, thanks a lot for the question there, Maci. Really appreciate it. Let's start with Pacific Rim. If you've watched this show and you watch our channel at all, you know I love Pacific Rim. I love it. I had so much fun with that movie. Did it have its problems? You know, from a classical movie making point of view, yes, it had its problems. No doubt, no denying it. But it was a lot of fun. So it really, I think it hit home on all the points that a movie like that needed to hit home on to be a success. And it hung in there and hung in there and hung in there at the box office to the point where it actually finally made a bit of a profit, because it needed to make a lot of money to make a profit, and it did in the long run. And, you know, you got Godzilla coming out as well, which I think looks really good. Here's the thing, though, about giant monster, giant robot movies. It's going to be hard making a giant monster movie that isn't Pacific Rim 2 or isn't another Godzilla film without it looking like a Godzilla or a Pacific Rim ripoff. Like, seriously, if you're a filmmaker right now, how do you make a giant monster movie that's not already an established monster like King Kong, right? How do you make a giant monster movie that isn't going to have the appearance of being like an idiot? I forgot to turn my phone off, so I will stop that right now. Sorry, Chris. My friend Chris is trying to call me. How do you make a film like that right now without it looking like a Pacific Rim or a Godzilla ripoff? It'll be hard. It'll be tough. Now, considering the fact that Pacific Rim can be called a success and was really fun and was really good, if Godzilla is a big financial success and it's really fun and it's really good, then you know they're going to look for ways to do it. So to answer your question, yes, I can see more of these coming down the pipe, even though there's this running the risk of them looking like ripoffs. If they make money and they're successful and Godzilla lays a groundwork for the fact that it can succeed, then yes, I do believe we're going to see something like that in the future. And I'd be pretty excited to see where they can go with stuff like that. All right, let's move on to the third question today. And the third question, while I take a quick drink of water. The third question today comes to us from Tony Rioli, who writes, do you think the Goosebumps movie will be more PG-13 scary, or do you think they are going to make it PG scary for the kids? Well, for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, there is a Goosebumps movie coming out where, I forget the author's first name, something Stein. Is it R.L. Stein? I think it's R.L. Stein. Correct me in the chat board if I'm wrong. The guy, there's this really interesting sounding movie coming out based on Goosebumps. It's called Goosebumps, the movie. And Jack Black actually plays R.L. Stein. And so anyway, this kid moves into this neighborhood. Some kid moves into a neighborhood, and he finds out and realizes that the girl and her dad that live next door is actually R.L. Stein, the author of Goosebumps. But what he finds out is that all the stuff in the Goosebumps books are real, and that through some kind of magic, R.L. Stein keeps those monsters and those creatures trapped in the pages of those books. Like, he writes these books to keep these creatures trapped. Something goes wrong, and you don't have a movie if something doesn't go wrong, right? So something goes wrong, and these creatures and these monsters escape. And now the movie is about R.L. Stein and this kid having to work together to find a way to capture these monsters and these creatures before they wreak havoc on the world, right? It's a very interesting sounding story, because I'm telling you, if you had just told me which it did happen a number of months ago, hey, they're making a Goosebumps movie with Jack Black. My first reaction, honestly, was, that sounds weird and kind of dumb. But then I read the full synopsis and it's like, actually, you know what? This could work. Keep an open mind. This could be kind of fun. It reminds me a little bit of Bubba Hotep. I've been talking about Bubba Hotep for a while, and I encourage you to go out and watch Bubba Hotep. Go rent it. You can find it on Netflix or something, I'm sure. But it sounds like it has a little bit of a Bubba Hotep feel to it, a little bit of Jumanji maybe feel to it. But I think there's a lot of upside to this as well. As far as do I think they'll go PG-13 or just go PG, like we were talking about in the earlier topic about creepy animated films, I think kids can handle a little bit of scary. And I think kids like feeling a little bit of scared. And I think they can handle it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting we show 12-year-olds Hostel or anything like that. But I believe a little bit of scary, a little bit of safe horror. I think kids can handle that. And so I'm going to, they probably will end up keeping it PG. They haven't submitted it for ratings yet, obviously. But I'd be okay with it if they came up with a PG-13. I'd be totally okay with it. I think it could be fun. I think it's okay to scare kids a little bit. I think kids can handle being scared a little bit. So go for it, as far as I'm concerned. Give it a crack. Give it a shot. All right, let's move on to question number 4. And the fourth question today comes to us from Ang Lee. I'm sure not the director of many great feature films, Ang Lee. I just love this show so much. Thank you so much, Ang. You are my heroes. My question is about X-Men movies. All right. Why is it that none of the X-Men films have made $300 million in the U.S. box office? I think X-Men is one of the most popular and well-known superheroes, along with Batman, Superman, and Spiderman. Why do they have a hard time reaching $300 million? Thanks, and keep up the amazing work. Good question. X-Men, remember, X-Men was around, was the first of the new major release superhero movies. After Batman and Robin and the superhero genre kind of temporarily died for a while, X-Men was the first popular pop culture comic book superhero movie that revived and resurrected the superhero genre, to be honest with you, that came along. And that was in an era where comic book movies were going to have a hard time making $300 million. So you had X-Men 1, X-Men 2. And my only theory is that then people knew what an X-Men movie was going to be. So when something new comes along, like Avengers or Iron Man or new Batman, I think that their plateau for success can then be a little bit higher than something like X-Men. I venture to say this too. If Fox ended the X-Men universe, let's say Fox ended the X-Men universe with X-Men Days of Future Past, right? And then in 2 years, they rebooted entirely, a brand new X-Men, totally rebooted. I bet it would be more successful than the first original X-Men was back in 2000. I'm speculating, of course. I don't have hard data to back that up with. I'm just speculating. And let's be honest, too. In the X-Men universe, there have been a couple of stinkers along the way. X-Men Origins Wolverine was a bad film. It wasn't like wretchedly awful, like Star Wars prequels awful, but it was a bad film. It was just bad. X-Men 3 was a disappointing film. Bryan Singer wasn't there to direct it. Matthew Vaughn was supposed to direct it. Like, very last minute, he backs out. Brett Ratner has to step in at the very last minute to direct the film. So, a lot of people like to blame Brett Ratner for X-Men 3. And I always say the guy in the director's chair is the most responsible. But this was a very weird, rare situation where Ratner, very last minute, had to fill in because Matthew Vaughn was supposed to direct it, then decided, no, I don't want to direct it. And Ratner had to come in and do it. And so the film was already kind of all set to go. I mean, everything about that film was already pretty much in stone. And now Ratner was in just to steer the ship as best he could, but the course was already set. So while I do not think Ratner did a particularly good job with X-Men 3, it's not really all his fault either. But getting back to the bigger point, X-Men Origins Wolverine was bad. X-Men 3 was a disappointing film. You had even the most recent Wolverine. I liked the most recent Wolverine film. I thought it was good. And then the last 15, 20 minutes were just terrible. But still, overall, I thought the film was pretty good. But still, not a super exceptional nor memorable movie, right? So It's no surprise that none of those films have made $300 million at the domestic box office, because, you know, positive word of mouth wasn't going to run rampant about those movies. And really, to hit $300 million in the North American domestic box office, you got to get everybody who would be interested in that movie to go to see it, and you've got to be good enough that those people want to go back multiple times and bring new friends with them. And let's face it, none of those X-Men movies meet that criteria. So now you got X-Men kind of in its own conundrum. But trust me, look, you don't need to make $300 million at the domestic box office to be a big success and be a big hit. You don't. You know, making $240 million at the domestic box office is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, studios will look at that and be very happy. Thank you very much. So I wouldn't really worry about that $300 million number. Let's see what happens after X-Men Days of Future Past. I suspect X-Men Days of Future Past, because it's coming off some weak X-Men offerings, I'm going to suspect that it is also not going to hit $300 million. But if X-Men Days of Future Past is awesome, let's see what happens with X-Men Apocalypse. Because if X-Men Days of Future Past is great and gets great word of mouth and people buzz about it and are excited about it, then when the next X-Men film comes out, that's where you can start really reaping the rewards. So let's see what happens then. All right, let's move on to the fifth question today, as I'll take another drink of water quick. And this question comes from Brad Lamberson, who writes, "Hey dudes, great show. Now, I know John says that there is no way Spider-Man 29 movie will be made, but if X-Men Days of Future Past is a hit, do you think 2099 at least gets put on the idea table at Sony? Or maybe a Spider-Man Edge of Time movie, a crossover between 2099 and Amazing? Thanks, and keep doing what you do best." Well, it's funny you bring this up, Brad. Actually, on, I believe it was Friday's AMC Movie Talk, we actually talked about a story where the two main producers of Spider-Man, Avi Arad and I keep forgetting his producer's partner's name, but they were asked directly, could we see either Wilson Morales, Miguel O'Hara, could we see Ben Reilly, could we see any of these Spider-Men, you know, could we see any of them? And their one-word answer was no. That's what they said. They said just a one-word answer, no. And then Avi Arad expanded on that a little bit, and I'm paraphrasing him here, but basically he says that won't work. Spider-Man is Peter Parker. That's who Spider-Man is. All these other guys aren't Spider-Man. They're other people, other characters who happen to wear the same name, but they're not Spider-Man. There is only one Spider-Man. That's Peter Parker. And their thing was, you have this time-tested, Avi said something along the lines of, you have this time-tested character that you got to honor. And then he reminded us that at one point in Marvel's history, they tried going away from that, and they had some very bad results. So basically, right from the producers' mouths of the Spider-Man cinematic universe, they said, no, we're not going to see Spider-Man 2099. We're not going to see Wilson Morales. We're not going to see Ben Reilly. We're not going to see any of those on the big screen. And so as long as they're the producers on the film, I mean, who knows what can happen in 15 years, right? When they retire and pass on the property and somebody else is the producer and in charge of it, then anything could happen. But I think at least for the next 10, 15 years, I think they made it pretty clear that we're not going to see that. So there you go. All right, let's move on to the final question today. And this is an interesting one. The final question today comes to us from Jack Hay. And Jack Hay writes, "Thank you for looking at my question." You're welcome, Jack. "I know you always say that Indiana Jones is the Nazis." Well, I don't say he is the Nazis. I just say that, to me personally, Indiana Jones isn't Indiana Jones if he's not fighting Nazis. Because that just, to me, is Indiana Jones. But anyway, Jack continues, "But what if he just had it more modern to his age and went after something like Atlantis? I feel there could be some real fun with that. They could also do Library of Alexandria or Solomon Mine." Okay, so if I'm understanding you right, Jack, what you are suggesting, this is only if I'm understanding you right, what you're suggesting is reboot Indiana Jones. Have him in a modern era, or at least a more modern era, post-Nazis. And this new young Indiana Jones, he does his adventuring hunting for Atlantis or hunting for Solomon's Mines. It's an interesting idea. I'm going to say, yeah, I'd be down for that. Yeah, I would be down for that. If Paramount Pictures came out and said, okay, we are rebooting and relaunching, or sorry, now it belongs to Disney, I mean. If Disney Films came out and said, we are rebooting Indiana Jones, and now we've got Nathan Fillion as Indiana Jones, or Bradley Cooper as Indiana Jones, or whatever. We got this new young actor as Indiana Jones, and Indiana Jones is a 35-year-old archaeology professor in 2013, 2014, 2015, whatever year you want to put it in. And obviously, instead of hunting Nazis and looking for the Lost Ark, he's actually an archaeologist on the search for Atlantis or whatever. There's a lot of things that could go wrong with that I don't have to mention, obviously. There are a lot of things that could go tragically wrong with an approach like that. But I'm going to tell you right now, Jack, you piqued my interest. That is something that as a film fan, I might be okay with. I think the time of Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones has come and gone, and we can celebrate, the amazing all-time iconic films. But I don't think he's Indiana Jones anymore, as much as he would like to be. Now I say that, but if Marvel or Disney announces they're making another Indiana Jones film with Harrison Ford, I'm going to be first in line to see it. You know it. But I think that time has passed. And so if they reboot it that way with that type of thing that you're suggesting, yeah, I think I'd be okay with it. All right, folks. Well, that'll do it for me. I've gone through all 6 questions today. Want to remind you, look on our AMC Theaters YouTube channel for our brand new show that we are starting, AMC Jedi Council, Star Wars Talk for Star Wars fans. And you can tweet in to us, by the way, any questions you might have that are Star Wars related to the hashtag AMC Jedi Council. Please join us for that. Don't forget, lots of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. And if you want to get one of your email questions here on AMC Mail Bag or on AMC Movie Talk Monday through Friday, email us anytime at the email address amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. My name is John Campia. You can follow me on all the various social media channels, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, just at John Campia. So again, thanks for joining me, guys. My name is John Campia for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey everyone, if you liked this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC Movie Talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.